Hi folks, FPL General here. Welcome to another episode of my 59th minute FPL podcast. Recording on Monday, December 2nd. Feels strange recording on a Monday. Usually release these on a Tuesday, but with the midweek round of fixtures, I wanted to get 2 podcasts out this week, so probably going to keep them a little bit shorter than usual. So get one out today and hopefully on Thursday or Friday get another one out as well ahead of Gameweek 16. So Gameweek 15 midweek, Tuesday deadline, 6:30 UK time. Don't miss it. Don't be that guy or girl in your mini league who misses the deadline midweek. No 59th minute substitutions in Gameweek 14, so no shoutouts this week. I do want to give a shout out to the guys who turned up to meet me in Glasgow yesterday. Though we had a great day out. Watching Arsenal game and the Leicester game, so I really didn't know how many people were going to turn up. I think in the end there was about 10 of us, so I was sitting there for a wee while by myself thinking, right, maybe it's just going to be me today watching these games. But shout out to all the lads who turned up. We had a great day out and looking forward to doing it again in the new year. So and looking forward to the London meetup on Friday the 13th now as well. So shout out to those lads. Hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. How was Game Week 14 for me? A quick review. It was average, 50 points in the end. A small red arrow from 231k down to 244k. So, I mean, if you're going to get a red arrow, you want it to be a small one. So I'm not too bothered by that. Hoping for a big couple of weeks now with these game weeks come thick and fast. Vardy captain, 3rd week in a row. Vardy always delivers. Disappointing that he didn't get any bonus points, but I was glad I went for him over Mane because those were the two I was kind of trying to decide between in the run up to the deadline. So glad I went for Vardy in that case. The only real positives were Trent, Kevin De Bruyne, Vardy, and Jimenez. They were actually the only 4 players who scored me more than 2 points. Blanks from Pope, Robertson, Lundstram, Tomori, Mane, of course. When I brought Mane in for Sterling. So obviously, in hindsight, wasn't the right move. But Mane, watching the highlights, Mane should have had plenty of points at the weekend. So hopefully, over the next 2 or 3 weeks, Mane can outscore Sterling and justify that transfer. Nothing from Mason Mount or Tielemans either. So overall, just the 50 points. Again, not too much damage done. Small red arrow. Hopefully 1 step backwards before 2 steps forwards over the next couple of game weeks. Watchlist update. It's a pretty boring watchlist update this week. All the players I've added are cheap defenders. So first one is Martin Kelly, 4.1 million, Crystal Palace. He's come into the team now because Joel Ward is going to be out for a couple of weeks. So that's good news for FPL. Anyone who has Martin Kelly or anybody who is looking for, maybe to downgrade in defence to free up cash, Martin Kelly I think is the best guy to go for now. Brandon Williams has been getting starts for Manchester United, but looking at the fixtures, and there's always a chance that Luke Shaw will come back in for some games, if not all of them. So I think if you're looking for a really cheap defender, you go Martin Kelly at Crystal Palace because great fixtures and he's going to play. The next defender I've added this week is Lewis Dunk, 4.6 million, Brighton. It's very odd. He's taken direct free kicks this season. It's very odd to see a centre-back step up and take free kicks. Very good goal he scored against Liverpool. Frustrating one for us who have double Liverpool defence. So thanks for that, Adrian. Good finish from Dunk from the free kick. He also had 2 other very good chances in the game. He glanced a header wide from a corner, and he also had a very good chance that came across the box and he put it wide. So Lewis Dunk is looking like a really good asset this season in FPL. Now fixtures are a little bit mixed over the next couple of weeks, but again, if you can maybe rotate him with someone, play him in the good home fixtures, I think Lewis Dunk is a very good option this year. Matt Targett, Aston Villa, 4.4 million, back-to-back 7-pointers. So he's picked up bonus points in the last 2 games. To catch my attention, it's looking like Matt Targett is a better option than Gilbert at right back now at Aston Villa. So again, fixtures here are not great short term for Southampton, but from game week 18 onwards, that's when I'm kind of eyeing up Aston Villa. Jack Grealish I'm going to talk about shortly when it comes to questions. These guys, Matt Target as well, I think at 4.4 million, really good price. For anyone who's maybe starting to think about improving their bench with maybe game week 18 in mind, Matt Target is looking like a really good option there. Jetro Williams, Newcastle, 4.6 million. This guy was on my watch list a couple of weeks ago. I removed him, but I've put him back on now after another very impressive performance against Manchester City. He's got a great goal to follow his great goal that he scored against Liverpool earlier in the season. So he's scoring against the big boys, and it's most of Newcastle's goals this season are coming from their defenders. I think it was 8 and 12 had come from defenders before Shelby scored that goal against City. So I do like the Newcastle defenders, and I think Williams is probably the pick of the bunch. The next 4 fixtures are pretty good for Newcastle as well, so we could see more points from this guy Williams. The good news here as well is Matt Ritchie has had. It's obviously not good news for Matt Ritchie. Hopefully he does have a speedy recovery, but it's good news for Williams because Ritchie has had a second operation, so he's more than likely not going to be back until January at least. So Williams' place at left back looks pretty secure over the festive period. So again, another really good option there. So yeah, not too many exciting options added to the watch list this week. Most of the guys, the big guns who've performed well are all already on my watch list. The likes of Son and Ali and all these players. Just a couple that I removed this week following Gameweek 14. Lucas Moura, because he didn't start. I don't like that. I don't want to be bringing in players who are, I don't want to be worrying whether my players are going to start or not. So that puts me off Lucas Moura now. I think Son and Ali are the best midfield options at Spurs to go for. I've removed Jose Perez as well. He came off very early in that Leicester game. I think it was after 61 or 62 minutes, so he was one of the closest players to getting a shout out this week. So again, I like my players to play 90 minutes if at all possible. Perez has been getting taken off early all season, so I'm not interested in Perez anymore. I've got Tielemans and Vardy anyway, so I'm not looking for the attack and triple up. And the final player that I removed is Dan James, Manchester United. Three blanks in the last 4 game weeks, and a couple of tough fixtures coming up for United as well. So I'm just not interested in Dan James whatsoever at the moment. So he's gone from the watch list. Going to fire through 4 or 5 questions from Twitter. Thanks to everybody who sent them in. First one came from FPL Animated. FPL Animated asks what to do with Tammy Abraham. So I held on to Abraham. I just benched him for Game Week 14 because I didn't really fancy, using a transfer on it. I was kind of hopeful that he would come back for this Aston Villa game midweek, and I've got my fingers crossed that he will. So Lampard said, I don't know if it was last night or this morning, there was some quotes that they said, basically Lampard just said we'll know more today and tomorrow. That Tammy just needs to get out and get moving on the training pitches over the next day or two. So I think that's positive signs. If they're going to get him out on the pitches, hopefully there's no reaction to that injury, and hopefully he can start that game at the weekend. I think Lampard will be desperate to get him back in the starting 11 given the defeat to West Ham at the weekend. I didn't see the game, but by all means Giroud wasn't great. So I think there's a good chance Abraham will come back in, even if he's 80 or 90% fit for that one. So hopefully keeping him will be justified and he can start and do well, hopefully for us who kept him, just to punish those who sold him. Not that selling him was a bad move. That's just me being selfish, wanting Abraham points all to myself. It's nice to see his ownership drop quite a bit, because if he does come back against Villa, it's going to be all the better if he can perform there. But I mean, well done to the people who went for the likes of Danny Ings and that did well at the weekend. Question from Arnesh Mishra. Very simple question: Son or Ali? I think this is going to be a very common question today and tomorrow. People are going to be weighing up which one to get. Maybe not even this week because it's Man United for Spurs midweek. So I think a lot of people will probably maybe hold off on that one until after that game. Son is now 9.8 million, whereas Ali is 8.5. Son, just looking at it today, Son has attacking returns in all of his last 5 games, so he's been really, really consistent, Son. But Dele Alli, I just really like what I see from him. A brace at the weekend. He just seems to be really flourishing under Jose Mourinho. So I think I do prefer Ali now for that cash saving. So what are you saving? You're saving about 1.3 million. That can go a long way. And I think Ali can match Son. I think, between now and end of the season, I think he can keep pace with him. Son is probably an easier player to captain. So it's, if you're going down that route and you want to use the Spurs guys as captains, you might have more faith in Son. But I mean, if Ali keeps doing what he's doing, if he keeps playing in the position he's playing in, he's showing all the signs that there could come a point in the season where we can trust him with the armband as well. So I think following the weekend, I think I'm leaning towards Ali camp now when it comes to getting a Spurs player. I don't have any Spurs assets at the minute. It's pretty tricky for me to get there because of their prices. I am, they are high on my wanted list, the likes of Ali, maybe Aurier as well at the back. So, but I might have to be patient there. I might just have to wait maybe until my wild card around Gameweek 20. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get them in before then. So, but we'll see how the next few weeks go in that regard. Question from FPL Boxer. Another very simple question here. Mount to Zaha? Question mark. Another very common move this week, I think, is going to be Mount to Zaha. Spoiler alert, before we get to the transfer section of the podcast, I've made an early move. It was actually my first drunk transfer of the season, but thankfully I think it's a pretty good transfer considering, being out all day with those lads. I made the transfer last night at about midnight when I came back. So I got rid of Mount. I've got 2 free transfers, so I've just used one of them. I've got rid of Mount for Zaha. So, I talked Zaha up last week on the podcast. I decided to keep Mount because I thought he would start against West Ham, and it was obviously a very good fixture. But, obviously that one didn't pay off. Zaha goes and gets a goal to wipe out my Nick Pope clean sheet. So that was frustrating. It would have been a nice move to have made last week. But again, I still think it was the right move to keep Mason Mount given that West Ham fixture. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I've made the move. I had 0.0 in the bank. Mount was dropping Sunday night, so I made the move early because if I waited until today, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Because making it early, it allows me to bank my second transfer now, which is most likely what I'm going to do. So Zaha is in. He's got Bournemouth midweek, and I just really like the guy. I like him because of his fixtures. He's starting to hit a bit of form. Maybe he'll want to put himself in the shop window now as well with the January transfer window coming up. So maybe we'll see a big explosion from him over the next couple of weeks. So that's what I'm hoping for anyway with those fixtures. And I mentioned it last week's episode as well. I just like him because at this time of year, you want players who are nailed on, who are not going to be rested. And I think Zaha is as good as anyone in that regard. Mason Mount, the Chelsea midfield it's probably going to be a bit of a nightmare for the next few weeks in terms of rotation. Pulisic owners are probably a little bit worried now about a midweek rest. So I'm happy enough to jump off Mount and jump onto Zaha just for that reliability of starts, more than anything else. So yeah, hopefully he can keep up his form now and outscore Mount over the next couple of weeks. Question from Rock Turboman. Is it time to jump off Pope? Fixtures are looking meh for a while. And Rock Turboman says he can wildcard him back in game week 18 or 19 again if necessary. So a lot of people are going to take this opportunity to move away from Nick Pope. I think it's a good time to do so because there's a little bit of a fixture swing here for Burnley. So he's got Man City next at home and then he's got Spurs away. So it's 2 pretty nasty fixtures. You're not expecting clean sheets from from Burnley in either of those 2. Newcastle at home then, so there's probably one good fixture in the next 5 for Pope, which is that Newcastle at home game, because then it's Bournemouth away and Everton away, and I would probably fancy both of those teams to score against Burnley. Burnley haven't been great this season defensively. They've been conceding a lot of goals. A lot of games they've conceded 2 or 3 goals. Conceded another 3 at the weekend. So I'm not overly keen on Nick Pope anymore. I've called him a season keeper. He may, he could still end up in my team for the season because the problem I have now is I've got one more free transfer, but I don't have any cash in the bank, so I can't do Pope to Henderson. Henderson is the goalkeeper I would want this week. Looking at the Sheffield United fixtures, right up until I wildcard, it would be ideal for me to go from Pope to Henderson this week, but I can't do it because I'm 0.1 million short. So I think I'm just going to end up having to keep Pope, and it doesn't bother me too much because I don't like wasting transfers on the goalkeeper position anyway. And, quite often we do see these cheaper goalkeepers, putting up big scores in tougher fixtures. So hopefully in that Man City Spurs game, Pope can rack up a lot of saves, hopefully maybe a bonus point or two. And, those games, he's probably more likely to be facing penalties as he would be in other fixtures. So there's always the chance of penalty saves there as well in those bigger games. So, yeah, I think I'm going to keep Pope, but if I had another 0.1 million, I would be selling him this week with that second free transfer. And I would be moving to Henderson, just purely based on fixtures. And Sheffield United have been excellent this season. So, yeah, I think it's one of those ones. It's fine to keep him, I think, but also I think I think if you're going to get rid of Pope, I think this week is the week to do it with that Man City game. Question from Alex: what are my thoughts on Jack Grealish as an option? So I mentioned Grealish last week. He was excellent against Newcastle, and watching the highlights from Sunday's game against United, he was excellent again. He's just so heavily involved in the attack and play these days, taking all the corners as well. And he's just a class player, simple as, and he's a player I would love to own. Now, I've kind of been eyeing up game week 18 for Jack Grealish, because the next couple of fixtures for Villa are Chelsea away, Leicester home, Sheffield United away. So on paper, 3 tough fixtures, but I think Grealish is playing, he's playing that well that I think he could trump the fixtures, and we've seen that against Manchester United. He got himself on the score sheet. There's no reason why he can't do the same against those next 3 opponents. So part of me is actually tempted to get him in now rather than waiting until game week 18. If I was to get him in this week, it would be for Tielemans. So I've had Tielemans a couple of weeks. I think it's 3 blanks and 4, and I just don't feel great about Tielemans. But what's swaying me towards keeping him is fixtures. Leicester have Watford at home midweek. You don't get a better fixture than that. They don't even have a manager. Aston Villa away, and then Norwich at home. So next 3 fixtures are really good for Tielemans. So it would probably make sense for me just to keep Tielemans and play the fixtures for those 3. And then once those 3 fixtures are out of the way, that's when Grealish, that brings us up to game week 18, when Grealish has some really nice ones against Southampton and then Norwich himself. So I think Tielemans to Grealish will be a popular move come game week 18, probably for myself and probably for other people as well. So I think I'm going to keep Tielemans just because of the fixtures, and I really do value having that extra transfer banked as well. With game week 18 in mind, I would like to carry 2 free transfers into that game week 18 to possibly lose a Liverpool player or 2. So that's why I'm going to keep Tielemans. And I'm just going to hold off on Grealish, and hopefully he's quiet for the next couple of games, and then game week 18 I can get him in then. So my thoughts on Grealish are, I think he's a really, really good option. Even with the fixtures coming up, I wouldn't let them put you off getting them in early. Game week 15 captaincy, I think it's a pretty straightforward one. Vardy plays at home to Watford, who sacked Flores at the weekend. So, Vardy scored in is that 6 games? 5 or 6 games in a row now where he's been on the score sheet. So there's no reason for me to take the captaincy off him. He's done well for me for the last 3 game weeks. He's in the form of his life. He's playing as well as he has done, going back to that title winning season. So that's from my arm is just going to stay there. This is not one to overthink. The other options this midweek are Liverpool are at home to Everton, so the likes of Mane and Salah are always captaincy options, but Merseyside derby, you never know how they're going to go. Everton weren't awful defensively on Sunday either, so maybe they could frustrate Liverpool. So that I'm leaning towards Vardy 100% over Mane this week. Anyone who owns Aubameyang, well done. Nice haul at the weekend, especially if you captained him. He's got a good fixture at home to Brighton as well, so I think if you own him, you're going to be very tempted to captain him in that one. Wolves are at home to West Ham. Jimenez is an option. Chelsea home to Aston Villa. Probably not going to captain any of those guys with doubts over Abraham and maybe some potential rotation there. Man City are away to Burnley. Burnley away is a tough fixture for any side, so that puts me off the likes of Sterling and De Bruyne and these guys for captaincy. So I think it's an easy one this week. I think it's Jamie Vardy if you have him. Aubameyang, obviously, if you've got Aubameyang and Vardy, you've probably got a tough decision to make. For me, Vardy, not one to overthink this week when it comes to captaincy. Lord Lundstram, I should probably mention him as well. He's at home to Newcastle, so maybe if anyone is if anyone's season's down in the gutter and your season's already over, that's a good fixture for Lundstrom. Lundstrom captaincy, home to Newcastle, clean sheet, maybe a goal, 15 pointer, hopefully coming up for Lundstrom this weekend. Don't do that if you're doing anyway well though. Transfers, I've already kind of mentioned them, so I've got Zaha in already. More than likely going to just roll my second free transfer into the weekend. We're probably not going to get any. I don't know if we're going to get much more news on Abraham. I think Lampard does have a press conference on Tuesday, so hopefully we'll know more then. Unless Lampard comes out and says 100% Abraham is not going to play on Wednesday night. I'm not going to make any more moves. If it was a case of, if Lampard gives a big hint that Abraham's not going to be ready, maybe I'll consider selling him, but I don't think so. Surely, if he misses midweek, he'll probably be okay for the weekend then. So if I've kept him this long, I may as well just keep him now. I mean, I've got good bench options anyway if he misses out. I've got Cantwell, who's become a really good option again, back-to-back goals, so I don't mind playing him against Southampton if I have to. I've got Tomori, home to Aston Villa, good chance of a clean sheet there, and I've got Rico as well. So yeah, I think I'll end up just keeping Tammy whether he plays or not on Wednesday night. I think that's everything covered. A little bit shorter than usual, but I know there's probably only about 24 hours between recording time and deadline to get it listened to, so I wanted to keep it a little bit shorter. I'll do the same at the end of the week, whether it be Thursday podcast or Friday. I'm not sure yet because there's 2 games on Thursday, so I'll decide later in the week which day is best to record. If you want to hear more from me, if you want more content from me, patreon.com/FPL General. The start of a new month is always the best time to sign up because effectively you get a free trial for the month of December. The next payment cycle on Patreon is not until January 1st, so why not try it during this busy festive period? Sign up, check out the Slack channel, check out the WhatsApp offering, see if you like it for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and if you don't, simply just cancel before the end of the month and you don't get charged anything. If you want to support me there, any support there is much appreciated. Most important thing this week, folks, is the deadline is Tuesday. Do not miss it. 6:30 p.m. UK time. Thanks as always for taking the time to listen. Really do appreciate each and every person who sticks in the headphones and listens to me ramble on at my kitchen table talking about FPL. So thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time. Good luck in game week 15. And I will talk to you at later in the week with another episode. Cheers, folks.